Hello there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vardhan and I'm super excited to be here on Edureka Live with you guys. So, in today's session, I will tell you why Linux administration will never go out of fashion. And the number one reason why Linux administration won't go out of fashion is because it's the preferred operating system for server hosting. And since it's open source, every company out there has adopted Linux, including the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, and many more. And since the usage of Linux will also not reduce, even the demand for Linux administrators will never die out. And also because there are so many interesting things that you can do on Linux, it's considered to be the breeding ground for technological advancement. So much so that developers consider Linux as their paradise for software development. Well, having said so much about Linux, let me get back to our session here. So, by the end of today's session, even you guys will understand how awesome Linux is when, after I give my practical demonstration of two such tasks that any administrator will have to carry out during his career. So my guess is that everybody present in the session right now have used Linux at least a couple of times, and that you people are aware of the few administration tasks in Linux. Can you guys quickly tell me if you've worked on Linux before or if you've used Linux before? Alright, so I have a lot of yes and I also have a few no's there. So, well, I can assume that people are from different backgrounds here. But anyways, that means that, I can give it'll be a revision for the people who already know about Linux, and for those of you who don't know Linux, I will also give an introductory topic that will help you get in sync with the other people and also in sync with the session and what I'm going to cover today. Alright guys, so having said that, and one more thing guys, if you guys have any doubt during the session, you can raise them by putting them in the comment box, and either my team or I will myself answer them for you. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy Edureka Live for the next 45 minutes to learn why Linux administration will never go out of fashion. So these will be the topics that I will be covering today. I will first discuss which are some of those timeless tasks that Linux administrators will never stop performing in their organizations. And after that, I will discuss in detail about two important job roles of theirs. One is that of NFS, right? That's called Network File System, which will be used by all the users in the organization. You can create a shared repository for all the users in your organization. And the second is that of implementing Squid, which is a proxy web server. So enough talk then. Let me just get started with the first topic for today, and that is the timeless Linux admin tasks. And what you see here on the screen are a few of the most common tasks that Linux admins are responsible for in their organizations. First of all, you have installing and upgrading the software, right? So this is the number one task which most admins start their career off with. Servers hosted either locally or on the cloud need to work with optimal performance all the time, and that can happen only when the services and the software which are used are updated to the latest versions. So this is pretty obvious and self-explanatory. That's one thing. And the next important task is that of patching and bug fixes. Fixing the software patches and bug fixes is a very underrated and highly important task, and a lot of people are not aware of that, because every software will have upgrades and its functionality will improve over time, and those softwares need to be updated, right? And how will you perform your updates without affecting other services? Correct? So that's where patching comes into the picture. And besides that, patching can also be done to fix bugs and make changes to the code without affecting other services. And then we have that of configuring web services. So configuring web services is again a very common task which helps in checking the health or monitoring the status of the server, and helps in a lot of other things, because the server's performance need to be measured on a regular basis so as to avoid any type of downtime. And the next task that you see here is that of user administration, right? So this is a very important task, and you people should be aware, you people should know already how important that is, because it's the administrator that controls what other users can do on the server, whatever they have access to, which websites each user can access during their work hours. All these things can be controlled by them. So This is a very important task, and it's a very common task actually. And then you have that of creating an organization-wide shared storage repository, right? You have that task. You have performing migrations whenever needed for those shared repositories, and restricting access to those directories to a limited very few people, right? That one. And also these three things probably make up an important day-to-day activity. And this is the task that I'll be showing you a demonstration on later today. I'll be using NFS to show you how to create a shared repository across your network, right? And last but not the least, we have the orchestrating of the functioning of the different DevOps tools, which is again a very interesting task, and it's pretty new role. It's a pretty new role that admins are getting used to, because ops engineers and system engineers, they all need to primarily set up these DevOps tools, and they have to monitor the working of the software that they are developing, right? And they have to make sure all that is being done well, and that's where DevOps tools comes into the picture. And since Linux admins work on these DevOps tools regularly, they have a good they'll have a good role to play in this task. So these are some of the most important, and also tasks which will never end, and it's going to be forever. These tasks are going to be forever. So I hope by now you guys got a good or a better understanding of what works, what goes on behind the scenes of an administration, right? So yeah, and I think it's the right time for me to switch the topic to how Linux admins actually go about their regular work. Okay, so that's going to be the first topic, and I'm going to switch to that. And so let's understand what is a network file system, why it's needed, and how admins configure them in the network. So yeah, first of all, NFS stands for Network File System, and this technology is used for sharing files and folders across all the systems in the network. Well, what happens here is that the file systems which are present in the server, they can be mounted locally on a remote host machine, which is very similar to a client-server architecture. Well, for those of you who didn't understand, in simpler terms, NFS is just used to create a shared hard drive storage space for the entire organization, and also so that the entire organization can access the same hard drive resource and collaborate together on that hardware resource. So that's what NFS is, and that's the benefit with NFS. And well, some of the benefits that we can get with NFS is that it can be installed and can be run on machines with any operating system, right? So you don't have the need to have all the systems to have the same OS. So as an administrator, I can set up NFS in my Linux server, and the other users will be accessing my shared resource, right? The resource that I allow them to use. That system can be Windows, or it can be any other operating system. So that's one big benefit with NFS. And of course, another very big important advantage that we have is that the data that can be accessed there, right? The users that can get access to the data there, they can be in any location. So it's just that they need to be given access to that, to their IP should be given access. So that's the only important thing, and these are the two main advantages. And yeah, that's the only important need that goes about with the configuration of NFS. So yeah, well, since I've spoken so much about NFS, now that you know a good introduction, you know what NFS is, let's get to the configuration of NFS. And if you want to configure them, we have to configure them at two places, one at the server side and one at the client side. So first up comes the server side configuration, where you have three important steps, right? So the first one is that of installing NFS and all its dependencies. So you have three different packages here for NFS. One is that of NFS utils, second is NFS utils lib, and the third is NFS utils devel. So these three packages need to be up and running if you want to set up a good NFS network. And once you've done installing these three things, you can get to the next topic, and you can configure. Excuse me. Yeah. So the next so the second step is that of configuring the exports file in the root etc folder. Right. In this directory, you have the exports file. You have to configure this file with the resource. So if you want whichever hard drive, whichever shared directory that you want to give other people access to, you have to mention that path and also the IP addresses to which you want to share it with. So you can individually specify the different IPs, and you can also otherwise, if you want to give the access to all the other users in the network, you can simply give an asterisk over there. So you can do one of these things, because when you give an asterisk, it basically means everyone connected in the network, they'll get access to that shared repository. So you can add those details inside the exports file. And then finally, the third step is to start the NFS service and the RPC bind service, right? So the RPC bind service is something that's going to start your port map, and it's basically to help your NFS map with the correct port on which it's running, and to set up service with the other client side, right? So that's why we use RPC bind service. So that's what you do on the server side. And when you're done with this, you can go to the client-side configuration. And in the client-side configuration, we have 3 important steps. So here again, the first step is the same thing, where you install NFS with all its dependencies. But the second would be to straight away start NFS service and the RPC bind service. And then the third step would be to mount the server's file system in your directory of your choice. So what this means is, whichever shared service that that is being shared from the server, right? That path, you need to mount that path in your local system. So you'll have to mount it with the help of by giving the IP address and the path of the server with the place where you want to place it in your system, right? So that's the mount thing. So you have a mount command for that very purpose. I will show you how that's done. And now that I'm done with talking about NFS and what are the steps involved, I can straight away go to my demonstration. If you guys have any doubts, please put that in the comment box right now, because I can clear that away before starting with the demonstration. Well, okay, I have one question here from Anand, and he's asking, NFS is used to mount between Linux and Unix machines, right? Or vice versa. And he also says, so what can be the Unix machines here in real time? Well, Anand, see, the thing is, NFS is not just for, for these 2 machines, right? It can be used for Windows also. So all these 3 operating systems can work on NFS, right? They can all get connected, and the server can be anything. You can have your server either on Windows, you can have your server either on Linux, or you can have your server even on Unix. And again, even the clients can be of any other operating system. So that's the big benefit with NFS. And in fact, in my own office, we have such a setup where the servers on the Linux, and we have a number of users who are non-technical, right? So they use Windows systems, and they are connected to the same resource. So that's how it works, Anand. So okay, so now since I don't have any other important question, can I get started with my demonstration, guys? Okay, I'll anyways start with my demonstration, right? So any other questions, you can put them in the comment box, and I'll anyways move forward with my session. So here I'll show you how to create a shared directory. I'll show you how to create a directory and then share it with other hosts or other users in the organization, right? In the organization or even in the entire network. So these can also be in remote locations and not necessary to be within the same organization, right? So I'll get started with that. And for this purpose, I'm going to go to my VM now, right? So this is my VM. Can you guys see my virtual machine here, guys? Okay guys, can you see my virtual machine here? Okay, great. So since it's all the video is all good now, let me get started. And now before I get started, let me tell you that since we need two different machines for server and client, I have two different VMs for the same purpose, right? So this slave machine that you see here, the slave VM, this I'm going to use as my client, and the master VM that I'm going to use, that you see here, I'm going to use this as my server. So if you guys remember, the first step that we need to do is we need to set up the server side, and we have to first of all install NFS here, right? So for that, let me open my terminal here, and the command to first of all install NFS is that of sudo yum install NFS asterisk. Well, I'm using yum here because I'm downloading my NFS from the yum repository. Now, since this is a CentOS system, since it's a Red Hat system, I'm going to use yum. And I'm using asterisk here because there are multiple packages and multiple dependencies, right? So I told you that there are three different packages: NFS, utils, lib, and devil. So to install all the three at the same time, we can use the asterisk. And yeah, when you just hit enter, you should be good, and the download should start. There goes my password. Okay, I have a question here from Ganesh. He's asking, is it really required for the NFS servers to be on the client side? Ganesh, yes, you have to have the NFS servers. Otherwise, how will you connect to the server, right? You have to have it on the client side. So without having it, without mounting it on the client side, you cannot connect to that repository which is there on the server side. All right? You'll get a better understanding when I show you the demonstration. All right? So, anyways, getting back to our VM here. So I ran the command, and for me it's already installed and I have the latest version, so there's nothing to do. But however, when you're doing it for the first time, you will have a detailed list, and it will show you what's getting downloaded and all the packages that are needed. All those things would show up, right? So now that I'm done with the first step, the second step is to go and configure the configuration file of this, right, of the exports. So for that, let me again run a sudo command so that I get the root access, and I'm going to run a vi command and go to the etc folder under which there's another file called exports. So I'm going to go here, and well, if you're using Linux for the first time, or when you're opening the exports file for the first time, there's going to be nothing, but maybe the experienced folks would have some other details, right? But but even in my case, that I don't have anything. So let's straight away start mentioning what we want to share. We have to first of all mention the path, the directory that I want to create a shared service of, along with the IP addresses that I want to share it with. So before I mention what I want to share here, I'll open another terminal, and what I want to show you, what I want to do is I want to create a new directory in my root. I want to create another folder in my root directory. Okay, so right now we are in the root directory, right? So I will create a new folder called, well, I have to use sudo for this. Yeah, I'm going to create a new folder called NFS Demo, right? So this is going to be the name of my folder, and there goes the password, right? So it's an empty, okay, sorry for that. Yeah, this is an empty folder right now, empty directory. Let me just use the touch command to create a couple of files. So let's say file 1, file 2, file 3, and yeah, many more. So when I hit enter, okay, so I have to give the sudo credentials for this. All right, so now it's created. We have three different files, right? File 1, file 2, and file 3. And now that this is done, what I have to do next is I have to restart my NFS service and my RPC bind service, correct? Okay, wait, I have to mention the path of this directory here, right? So this is what I was doing already. So yeah, what I was saying is I have to mention the directory where I've created these files, right? So this is the folder that I want to share, and this is present inside the root directory. So I'm going to specify root and mention the directory name, right? Now once you've mentioned the folder or the directory name, you can straight away mention the IP address you want to share this with. And if I want to share it with my slave, that's my client that's running over here, I need to first of all find out what's the IP address. So I can find the IP address of my system by running the ifconfig command, and the network is running. So this is the IP address of my client machine. So I'm going to copy this, and I'll just go back to my server machine, and I'm going to paste it here. And inside brackets, I'm going to say rw, sync. Now, when I say rw, it basically means I'm giving read-write access of this folder to this particular machine. So whatever host is present over here, I'm giving the read-write permission of this folder. Okay, and sync is basically to it's basically before you create an export or before you share things, it's telling that also make it available for stable storage. So that's why we use sync, right? So that there's a stable storage space that's also created before making an export or before making a share with other hosts. So once you've done with this, you can just save and quit this. And now what we need to do is we need to go to the third step, that is starting our NFS service, right? So the command to start our NFS service and our RPC bind service is sudo service NFS start. But anyways, let me restart it because NFS is already running once. So let me stop if anything is running already. So let me stop it once and restart it again by giving this command. And similarly, we have the RPC bind service, and even that can be done in the same way. RPC bind, restart, right? Okay, so even the RPC bind has stopped and it's restarted again. Now, great. So show mount, fantastic. So we have our file which is ready to be shared with this particular IP address. So our first problem is solved. What we can do next is go back to our client side and start configuring our client. So I'm just going to clear the entire screen, and first of all we have to download the NFS service over here also, right? So for that you can run the command sudo yum install NFS along with all its dependencies. So it's the same command that I'm running here with this password. So again, oh yeah, so some people find it funny there. Yeah, Sindhu, Manish. Yeah, well, finally, yeah. See, we're working on Linux, right? So Linux is open source and all these technologies are open source. So yeah, I mean, this is our life. So sometimes this happens. So we have to just deal with it, be patient, and trust that we've done the right things. So good, good. I'm glad people here at least find the funnier part of it. But anyways, getting back to our session, this is our client side. This is the first step that we've done. We've achieved this successfully. So the second step would be to straight away start our services. So we have two services, and the command for that is sudo service NFS restart. Okay, I'm restarting it because I want to stop any existing service, and I'm starting it again. So just shutting down once, and let me run the same command for RPC bind, right? Okay, so we have these two things ready. Now what we can do is probably use a show mount -e along with the IP address of my server. So this would also help us show what directories that he's going to share with us. So for that, let me run ifconfig to find out what is the IP address of my path. Okay, so now this is strange because even my server has the IP address of 56.3, and so is my client. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command to change the IP address. Okay, so well, before I do all these things, let me change the IP address of my slave, of my server. And the command for that is sudo IP adder delete, and what's the IP I want to get rid of? This one, right? 192.168.56.3. I'm going to copy this, dev, and eth1 port, right? Yes, it's eth1 port. So all right, now let me add a new IP address. I'm going to say /.4/24, and instead of delete, I'm going to say add. Okay, now great. Now my IP would have changed. Let me run an if config now. Yes, my IP address has changed to .4. Now that we've changed this, we have to also go back to our client, our server, and change the IP address over there also. Correct? Okay, so let me go back to my client here. To my server, and go back to the etc exports file, and this .3 would change to .4. All right, great. Now, just to be on the safer side, let me restart the services, and I hope these are good this time. These are up and running. Okay. All right, so this time it's being shared with .4. Okay, and .4 that you see here, this is the IP address of my client also. So now it should all be good. And now if I run a show mount command with the IP of my server, then it should probably show me the list of files that can be shared. Well, even if it doesn't show me, it's not a big deal because it's not an error. But yeah, anyways, it's showing me that. So the NFS demo folder is what is going to be shared from the server, and it's being shared with only me here. So this is fantastic, good news. So I can get to my final step, that is of mounting this file structure at my end, at my client. So for the command for that would be mount the IP address of the of my server, that is .3 colon. What's the path where it's present? It's NFS Demo, and the path where I want to paste it in my local system. So okay, so let's say I want to go to my root directory and store it in my mount folder. I can do that also by specifying mnt. Okay, only root can do that. Let's give the sudo access for that. Sudo. Great, it's all done. So let me just go and see what's present in my mount, inside my mount folder right now. Very good. So finally our demo is done with respect to NFS, because you can see file 1, file 2, file 3, right? So these 3 files are present even at our client end, and this was of course something that we started from our server. So let me just clear the screen and give you a better view. Right, so right now this is my slave, and this is my master. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show what see what is there in my NFS demo folder. Okay, we have these 3 files, and similarly I'll go back here and I'll open the same folder, but over here it would be present in my mount directory. Right, now comes the fun part. Let me run a cat command for all these files, or rather even one file would do. Cat file 1. Oh, okay, sorry. I need to first of all move to the mount directory. Okay, and cat file 1. So right now there's nothing to display. So the cat command basically displays the contents of the file, right? So file 1 has nothing right now. Now let me go back to my master and add some details to my file 1. Let's say, let me first of all go to the directory here and open it with the VI editor. And I'm gonna add something like this. This is the first update from the server side, and let me just hashtag it with 1. All right, I'm gonna say okay. Now let me save and quit. Okay, no problem. I didn't use sudo. Let me do the same. Well, sudo, because this is my root directory, right? So I can't just modify what's there in my root directory. So I'm just gonna add the same thing here. First update from the server side, and I'm gonna hashtag it with 1. Okay, I'm gonna save and quit. Fantastic. Now let me go to my client side and do the cat file1 again. So this time you can see that we have an extra line. We have this line in the file1, right? So this, it says this is the first update from the server side. So that's what it is. So right now I'm basically accessing my servers folder, my servers directory, and the file1 which is present inside my server. So that's what you can do. Let me show you one more fun thing here. Inside my NFS folder, if I create another folder called, basically this is how things work. If I add details to my file 2, then even that will be reflected here. So, okay, this won't work. I did not use sudo. Right, now let me just show you something. Let me just add, this is the modification in file 2. Now I save and quit, and if I go back to my client side and if I do a cat file 2, then you can see that this line gets displayed. So this is what I added over there. So this is how the sharing works. And similarly, the same thing, if you start, you can start adding details. You can create any number of files in this directory, and you can add any data that you want to these files, and the same changes will be reflected even on your server side. So yeah, that's how NFS works, and that's how really awesome NFS is. You can create one shared repository for the entire organization, and it's really fun to work on Linux and also to do such things. So now let me quickly just clear the screen and move on with the next part of the session, because we've already wasted quite a lot of time, so I don't want to waste any more time here. So I was talking about, I just gave you a demonstration of NFS. And the next topic that I am going to talk about today is that of Squid. Right, I'm going to tell you what Squid is and how administrators, Linux administrators, use web proxy servers. Right, how they use Squid as web proxy servers to improve the network bandwidth and block users from accessing certain websites. So let's learn that here. Right. So first of all, before I talk about Squid, can I ask a quick question here? Can I just find out how many people here know what's a proxy server in the first place? Okay, I'm getting a yes, but okay, I'm also getting a don't know from Abdul. So filter tunnel says Kumar. Well, yeah, pretty much there. So the whole see what a proxy server is, that it's basically an intermediary between a host and the outside internet. So if you want your machine to connect to the outside internet, then you can install a proxy server. It's not necessary everywhere, but you can install a proxy server to gain some additional benefits, like controlling the IP traffic and monitoring what people are accessing and all these things. Right, so that's the that's what a proxy server is. And our Squid here is, again, it's a web proxy server which primarily supports HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP requests, and a few more other protocols. And you can ask me, what's the big benefit with Squid? Well, the biggest benefit is that Squid caches web requests, and when another host makes a similar request, the response time reduces. Now, for those of you who didn't really get or understand this line, so I have this diagram here which I can explain it with. So you can see that there's internet access here, right? So we have the different hosts in the network, and if these people need to access to they can either get access directly to the internet, but if you have a proxy server, these people will be connected to the proxy server, and the proxy server will in turn connect them to the internet. So whatever requests they make, so if they want to access some URL, if they want to access espnstar.com, or if they want to access any other site, the torrent site or Facebook, then they would be sending the request to the proxy server. The proxy server would get that web page requested from the internet, and it would again transfer it back to the host one. And that's where the advantage is. Now, since everything goes through the proxy server, there's something called as web caching, right? So whatever requests are made, they will get temporarily cached over here, because caching is basically temporary storage, right? So proxy server also does that same. So what the thing here is that when the host 2 or the host 3 tries accessing the same web page which the host 1 accessed previously, then their web service can be, their request will be serviced much faster. That's because the proxy server itself can give them what is needed. They don't have to again go back to the internet and fetch all the data. Now take an example of downloading a movie from torrent.com, okay? Now if the host 1 downloads a movie, let's say it's going to be 1 GB, or even if he downloads open source Hadoop, right? That's about 200-300 MB. If he downloads that, he'll first of all download that from the internet. But a version of that would be cached in the proxy server, and this is where the benefit comes. So the other hosts which are there in the network, they can indirectly download the same thing from the proxy server the next time when they are downloading it, and they will save a lot of time, because once it's there in the proxy server, it's all about just transferring it to 2 different files in the same network, right? So that's going to be much faster. So if the first time they're downloading it, if it takes almost 10 minutes the first time, then later when these 2 hosts are trying to access it, it would probably take 2 minutes or 3 minutes max tops, right? So that's the big advantage. That's what we say by caching web requests, and the response time reduces for the other hosts. And along with this, there's another big benefit, and that is of improved bandwidth for the entire network. Now, first of all, one host is downloading something for 2 GB or 3 GB, and if you try to avoid other hosts also downloading the same item from the same web page for 2 GB to 3 GB, then you're reducing a lot of FUP, and also the bandwidth that's being consumed for downloading it every time. That also you save up, right? You save up on these 2 things, and when you save up on these 2 major factors, then yeah, of course you're going to have a better bandwidth for the other users, and there's not going to be any reduced service, right? So this is one big advantage with proxy servers, and especially Squid is a very popular web proxy server which is used for this purpose. So yeah, and Manish says DNS server 2 has a cache memory in it. Yes, of course it does, because that's the whole point of a proxy server, right? Almost all the proxy servers will have it, and but our implementation today is going to be on Squid, because Squid is my favorite. There's much more that you can do on Squid which you cannot do on DNS server, right? So I like Squid, and the reason why I've chosen Squid for today's session is the third point here. So third point here says that Squid implements ACL for blocking certain websites or web pages, and it also improves security by filtering traffic. Now, when I say this is the reason, what I mean is this is the demonstration I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you a demonstration of how to block certain websites or web pages by using your access control list. So ACL stands for access control list, and if you can create an ACL rule with the help of Squid, and in that rule you can mention the list of websites that you don't want your users to access. Now, take an example of a Linux administrator in any company, and if the company or the organization policies state that the employees cannot use any social media sites like Facebook or Twitter during work hours, then as an administrator, I can write a rule like that. So my job is so simple that through ACL I can write a rule blocking those websites, and I can just implement them, and none of my users will get access to access to Facebook or Twitter when they're on my network, right? So that's one big advantage. So yeah, I mean a number of employees are gonna hate me for that, but the one who's paying me is the boss, right? So I'm making the boss happy by doing this. So yeah, my pocket is full, and that's what I need. So I can do that as an administrator. And another big benefit of this is in colleges and schools, off late there are a lot of students accessing pornographic sites. So the administrators there can again implement ACL, and they can block such websites and web pages, and block those porn sites so that no student accesses anything during school hours or working during school hours, right? So that's the other benefit with ACL. So yeah, by now I'm pretty sure you guys would have understood what ACL is and how Squid works, how it implements ACL. So I can straight away get to my configuring an ACL. So okay, Jaswant says explain about DNS server. Well, Jaswant, I'm really sorry for that. See, we are already running short of time, so unfortunately I would not be able to show it today. But surely I would take in this request. Probably the next time we have a Linux session, I would try to include DNS server there. All right? Yeah, but you don't have to worry too much because DNS and Squid, they are all pretty similar. They're all proxy servers at the end of the day, so there's not going to be much of a difference. And yeah. So yeah, now seems like everyone else is fine. So let me get started and talk about the steps that are involved in setting up Squid. So we have 4 important steps here, and the first step is to definitely install Squid. So without that you can't do anything. So you install Squid with all its dependencies. The second step is to configure the squid.conf file, and that would be present in the etc/squid directory under root. So I can go here, I can configure this configuration file. So by default there will be a lot of configuration files already. So you'll have a lot of ACL rules and a lot of HTTP access rules defined by default. And if in my case, if I want to set up an ACL rule for blocking websites, then I can do that by adding 2 lines there, 2-3 lines. I can also add the host name and all these things. So I'll be configuring this file here. So the third step would be to enable a proxy server in the default browser. Now, since it's a Linux administration session, I would be using Mozilla Firefox, right? Because Firefox is Linux's default browser. And similarly, if you're setting up Squid on a Windows server, then you would have to probably enable the proxy server settings from your Internet Explorer. And similarly for Apple, for Mac systems, it would be Safari, because your proxy server settings will be present only in the default browser which that OS supports. So in my case here, I would be using Firefox. That's the third step. And the fourth step would be to, of course, restart your Squid service. And when you do that, you're all up and running, you're ready. I can show you how the sites are blocked and all these things, right? So yep. So now comes the hands-on part. Let's see how to configure Squid by making change to the conf file and enabling the proxy server in the default browser. Great. So for that, let me again go back to my VM here. This is my master VM. I can go to my slave VM also. I can go to any of these VMs and clear, and let me just close any running services. So nothing's running. So first of all, to download Squid, we can run the command sudo yum install Squid, right? Okay, so for me it says it's already installed and the latest version I have, so there's nothing to do. But you guys can go ahead, use the same thing to download Squid and implement Squid. The second step would be to configure the file, right? So the file is present under this directory, etc squid and squid.conf file. So I'm gonna use the VI editor to edit this file. So I'm gonna hit enter, and as you can see, there are already a number of rules, like I said earlier. So these are some of the comments. So wherever you have a hashtag, it means that these are comments, probably for highlighting the heading or things like that. So we have various ACL rules defined here, and we don't need to touch all these rules for now, right? This is not what we really need to touch about, worry about. But yeah, you just need to know that we have the ACL rules there, and we have the HTTP access rules starting from here. So we have a number of them. It says HTTP access allowing for allow manager of the local host, deny manager, deny connect SSL ports. We have a number of rules, and one rule which I want to show you here is that of the port number. As you can see, there's a HTTP port that is 3128, and this is the port number on which my Squid will be running by default. If you want to change the port, you guys can go ahead and change the port. But otherwise, this is very good. 3128 is good enough. And we have to mention this port while we are setting our proxy server, because the proxy server would be listening to Squid, right? So yeah, we have to mention this port number in our proxy server. I will show you how it's done. But before I go to that third step, and before I go there, let me add the ACL rule here. Okay. So let me come here. So I'm adding an ACL rule, and the ACL rule is ACL blocked websites space destination domain. And now let me say facebook.com and twitter.com and probably any other domain that you want to block. Well, in my case, if I have a number of employees in my organization and I don't want them to access social media sites, I would be doing this. And in the next line, I can simply call the HTTP access. Okay, I can say HTTP access deny blocked websites. Now let me explain this rule over here. Now what I've done is I've created a new ACL called blocked websites, and the rule here is that whichever destination domain is there, so these two domains, basically facebook.com and twitter.com, right? So I've defined these two domains in the destination domain, and whenever they are being accessed, then they would be denied. So that's what the deny blocked websites is there. So every time the HTTP access is, and anytime we try to access a new website, it would check this ACL access control list, and it would check if anything is blocked from that list. So if any site is being blocked, then that would simply be not shown, right? So it would not let you to navigate there. Now that's about it. So that's how simple it gets. I can just simply save and quit, and I can go to the third step now. And the third step is to open my Firefox browser, which is the default browser with Linux. And over here, yeah, we need to go to the settings, and we have preferences, right? So go to preferences, and under preferences, we have advanced. Let's go to advanced preferences, go to network, connection settings. So over here, you have the option to set your proxy. So right now, it's using the system proxy settings. So if you try accessing anything, so if you try accessing facebook.com or twitter.com, they would all work fine. So as you can see, Facebook is running now. There's no problem at all, right? Okay, yeah, it's open. Login page is working. But if you want to configure Firefox to work through a proxy browser, then you can click on this and add the IP address. Now, since I don't have a network here with me, since this machine is not the actual proxy, it's not the actual server through which all my network is being routed through, because it is not that, I'm going to just specify my own IP address. But ideally what would happen is the proxy server which is being used to route all the traffic, right, all the IP traffic on that server, the administrators would add the whole network. They'll add the network address instead of just a specific address. But in my case, I'm just going to add the address of 192.168.56.4 because that is my IP address, and the port number that I mentioned earlier was that of 3128. So this is where it runs by default. I'm going to say it uses proxy for server for all protocols. When we say all protocols, it includes that of SSL, FTP, and SOCKS, right? When you do this, just click on OK. Now your proxy settings is also enabled. Now you guys can ask me one question as to why we need to set the proxy settings over here. Does anybody have that question? Okay, great, you people know it, so I don't need to touch upon that. But yeah, well, for the unfortunate few, let me just tell you that to enable Squid, we are using this proxy server. We are saying use the proxy server right, which is running on the port number 3128, and our Squid is running on port number 3128. So every request here that that the my Firefox gets, it would be routed through my Squid server. So that's the thing here, right? So now that I've done with this, now let me try to access facebook.com. And now when I hit enter or refresh, see what happens. Or for that matter of fact, I can access any other website, so Facebook or Twitter. Okay, so it's working now, right? So this is good news. So right now, nothing is implemented. Now that's because everything is all fine, but there is one step that I need to still complete. That is of restarting Squid. Now, even though my Squid is being activated, it's running on my previous rule. My new rule which I activated, that has not been updated. So to update that, I need to run this command, sudo service restart. Service Squid restart. And the password is this, stopping Squid. So once it stops and once it restarts, then you can see that Facebook and Twitter will not open anymore, right? Yeah, it takes some time to stop Squid, so let's just be a little patient here. Yep, starting Squid. Okay, so it's all good. Now let me try and refresh facebook.com. Bingo, the proxy server is refusing connections. Correct, this is what we wanted. So anytime any employee of yours in your organization or in your network tries to access Facebook or Twitter during work time, he's going to be shown this kind of a page, right? So it does not say that you don't have access to that, it does not say that the web page is down. It does not say Facebook is not reachable or that is not reachable. It only says that your proxy server is refusing you connections. So this is like a slap on the face to those people who are trying to fool around during work hours. So that's how that's the part that we have as administrators. We can control a number of things. We can control basically the social life of the other folks in your organization. So that's one fun thing, and these are the two important and the really nice things that I want to show you in my session, right? So this brings an end to my demonstration also. So I hope you guys have had good fun. Probably I made you guys wait for a little longer during my previous demo, but yeah, that's part of Linux, right? So that's that, and let me just quickly revise what I covered today. So the first topic that I spoke about was that of the different timeless Linux admin tasks, and it's timeless because these are everlasting, right? So these tasks are never going to end. These are going to be there as long as companies are using Linux, as long as Linux servers are being hosted, and as long as Linux administrators are there. These tasks will definitely have to be performed. These are the things which you cannot not do later. So that's the first thing. And then I spoke about what exactly is the NFS, the network file system, what are the steps that are needed to configure them at your server side and client side. Then I spoke about what is Squid, how to, what's the role of a proxy server, how Squid, performs as a proxy server and how you can use it. And finally, I gave you a demonstration of the same. I gave you a demonstration of NFS and Squid. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm sorry for keeping you for an extra 10-15 minutes. I should have finished it a little earlier, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. So I had a good session here. And yeah, Robert says, thank you, I learned a lot. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for being ever so patient. Even I learned a lot, actually. I learned how to be patient in front of an audience when one of your demonstration doesn't work, right? So yeah, I didn't do anything. I was just restarting the same service again and again, and it just happened to work suddenly. So sometimes that happens. So that's all about Linux. So that's there, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this session, guys. I hope you all Oh yeah, so guys, yeah, I enjoyed this live session, and I hope you all have learned something new today. If you guys are looking at a structured training, you can probably check out Edureka's Linux course, right? In fact, we have a Linux course starting every month, and let me just quickly go to the Linux page and show you that, right? So this is our Linux landing page, and at Edureka we have this Linux administration certification training. You can check out the course details over here. We have a batch starting on the 22nd of July in a couple of days, and we also have one starting on the 19th of August. So you can check out that. You can check out the price details. You can change the currency to US, and also you can check the US timings for the batch. You can do all these things. If you're a US customer, if you're from US, you can check out you can call our sales team at this toll-free number. And similarly, Indian customers can use this number to contact our sales team. If all else fails, you can just drop a mail to sales@edureka.co, and yeah, there'll be someone who will get in touch with you regarding this course, right? So you can also have a look at the various other features that you will get when you buy a course from Edureka. You can see all these things are there, and you will also get details about what you'll be learning in the course. So you have the course curriculum and the course objectives and all these things over here. So do check out our course here. And yeah, stay tuned until we have our session again, right? So thank you guys. Well, we will come up with more live sessions. Do subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share our videos. And there's one important thing that I want to talk about. So, and that is we have something called as the bell option right next to the subscription option, right? So if you've already subscribed to Edureka channel, well and good, but if you want to be notified of such live sessions in the future, and if you want to be notified of any new videos from our side, then please hit on this bell button here. So when you do that, you'll get all the updates. You'll get a notification right here. So do that, and stay tuned for more such live sessions with Edureka and more videos from our side. And yeah, of course, please follow our channel, like our videos, share and comment on the videos, and keep it interactive. It will be a pleasure to have you on board with us, guys. So thank you once again, and happy learning. Well, okay, since there are no questions here, I'll just quickly end the session. And yes, it's been a pleasure, guys. So